Yo, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? My name is Tom, and in today's video, we're going to be reacting to a new gameplay trailer. So basically, this game that got announced a while back was a Lord of the Rings video game. A Lord of the Rings video game. And it's called Gollum. It's about Gollum. Who would have guessed? Roll the clip. Let's go. I'm excited to just watch this and break it down as we go. So it's an Xbox gameplay trailer. I don't know if it's exclusive to Xbox itself, but basically what I can sense from this so far is that it's all about Gollum. We play as Gollum. I think it's a third-person game. Gollum looks fairly young here, so I would say it's an origin story for Gollum. And yeah, weird looking art style, but I kind of like it. It's about his obsession with the processes, and we obviously see the beautiful. Sorry about that. I just couldn't help it. We see a lot of the Lord of the Rings sort of pre-movies, so we get to see a little bit of the Mordor and the backstory of this planet, this plane of existence that the characters are in. We see new characters like this and things like that. I'm recently looking through the the Tolkien Silmarillion, which is like the big book of like everything to do with Lord of the Rings. So recommend reading that book. I don't like reading books. I'm not a big book reader, but that one's a great one. And this looks really cool, really stealthy. There's definitely going to be a lot of stealth elements to it. Gollum's going to be an interesting character to play as and to follow because he's quite a grey sort of character in the stories. He's obviously obsessed with the precious and this thing between good and evil about Smeagol and Gollum and this sort of dual personality. It's going to be an interesting watch, and I think it'll be a really interesting game with a really complex story. And I think it's weird that obviously we're not being a major hero. We're not being like a Gandalf, like kicking ass, or we're being like Aragorn, or we're not being like, Frodo or Bilbo. And we're not following like a cool mainstream protagonist. We're playing as a bit of a ambiguous character. So I think that's going to be an interesting experience. The Lord of the Rings Gollum. It's a title. It's the title of the game, and it looks pretty interesting. And I'm excited. It's on the Unreal Engine, so yeah, that's pretty cool. It's going to look kind of nice. It's going to look groovy on the Xbox Series X. I don't think we have an exact release date yet for it. This is just the story trailer. So let's go back to some moments that kind of impressed me, like the combat there, like how Gollum's crawling around and being stealthy, and then he's obviously gonna have to jump onto the back of some enemies and try and do some stealth takedowns. That's gonna be kind of impressive. I'm looking forward to seeing that. The spider, that's kind of cool, scary. The weather effects, dynamic weather, different levels, different battles, bosses, different enemies to attack. I don't think Gollum's gonna like square off 1v1 a dragon. I don't think that's quite believable, but still, I'm interested to see what it's going to be like to see him in this experience. And the idea of, a battle between good and evil is a really cool idea. And it's a really cool character to play this with. So it will be available on the Xbox Series X and S. And it will be available in 2023. So it's coming this year. We don't have an exact date. So it could always be postponed. So the story, an untold story of Lord of the Rings. Again, yeah, that's true. It is an untold story. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. So the comments say, this looks great, I've seen the movies and just started to read the books of Lord of the Rings. Definitely will play this game when it comes out on Game Pass. Or if it comes to Game Pass. Actually looks better than what I thought it would. Okay, this looks way better than I thought. More interesting than I initially thought. Definitely want to see more. We still need that Witcher 3 / Hogwarts Legacy RPG though. Don't know what that means. The game looks really good. Can't wait to pre-order it. Show Bom de Mamias. That must be a character. I'm probably reading that wrong. This looks stunning and exciting. You got to give that release date. This looks great. Looks fantastic. Looks awesome. Can't wait. So it's got a lot of positive feedback. I'm not seeing a lot of negativity in the comments, which is a positive for a game like this. So this, to me, looks like it could be a very interesting game to follow. And I think this will be a really interesting watch because Gollum is, like I say, he's not a stereotypical protagonist. Gollum and Smeagol being the two sides of good and evil with the obsession with the ring and stuff like that. I think that's going to be a really interesting character to follow and watch because he himself is such an interesting character. He's not necessarily going to be a positive like role model of a protagonist, and he's also not going to be like this super edgelord evil villain. He looks meek and vulnerable, and because of that, his fighting style will be different to many characters we've seen before. Normally, we have like what I call the Kratos scenario, where a game like God of War Ragnarok, love that game, it was a phenomenal game. Lost to Elden Ring, which was again a phenomenal game, but in God of War, those types of games, I give it the name of the Kratos syndrome, where you play as this humongous tanking beast who's a god killer, and he's designed to rip gods apart. We see him in the earlier games destroying the Greek pantheon. We see him going up against absolute tanks of gods and ripping them, head to shoulder. And we see him being an absolute badass, which is good and all. However, it then bodes really awkward and uncomfortable to see him do that when he's then getting into fights with skeletons, draugrs, and he's getting his ass whooped by like weak little vulnerable AI. But then again, he can rip a god to pieces in seconds. We always play as like those overpowered characters in a video game. Nobody likes playing as the weak, vulnerable character. Everybody enjoys playing the big, scary, muscly mountain character. And this game will be one of the first that I've ever played that lets you experience the world through the eyes of this small, vulnerable character. And again, not a very morally good one. It's just more of a grey area, and I think that's a really cool character to explore. Hopefully, we'll have cutscenes where he's Gollum, then Smeagol, then a bit of both, and we're gonna get to see that dual personality. We already see him obsessing about the one true ring and stuff like that. His precious, which will be a really interesting concept to see him balance throughout the game. It'll be interesting to see how the story develops. I'm gonna feel like, as a Lord of the Rings fan, and as somebody at the moment who's borderline on the edge of purchasing this big, massive Lego Rivendell set, Lord of the Rings has been a big part of my life, and I've grown up watching those films, and I've listened to some of the books. I haven't read them. I'm not a big reader, being dyslexic and all, but watching those films and The Hobbit and stuff, I really got into that world and those characters, and I would have loved to play as Aragorn. Is it Aragorn or Aragorn? I say his name wrong. Boromir as well, Frodo, Samwise, Gandalf. I would have loved to have played as any of those characters, and I have done in the Lego Lord of the Rings games. But Shadow of Mordor as well was the last Lord of the Rings game I played. And these Lord of the Rings games are few and far between. They're not like occurring things that happen all the time. So the rarity of getting a Lord of the Rings game is very cool. And the fact that in Shadow of Mordor, we had a really badass character, very big, strong barbarian with the magic and the swords and everything. To see him as the protagonist, I forget his name, but him as the protagonist, to then go into Gollum, I just think Gollum's going to be a really interesting character to play a whole game as, because, like I say, because of his vulnerabilities, because of his dual personality, because of his character design and model and shape, combat's going to be very interesting. We saw a guy riding a dragon. I mean, I doubt Gollum's going to 1v1, Apollo Creed style box a dragon. I don't think he's going to be doing that in this game. But if he ends up getting a little twig and going, "You shall not pass," then I'm not gonna question it. But I don't see Gollum scrapping a dragon 1v1 like we saw briefly in the trailer, where he's crawling through the bushes and crawling up the caves, and then he dives onto the back of a guy and starts biting on him and scratching him. I think the combat's going to be a lot more stealth orientated. That might throw some people. I'm not a massive fan of stealth. Stealth and puzzles, I'm not a big fan of. I'll put up with them if I like the game enough. So that will be a true test to see if I like this game long enough to progress in it and to stay in it. Even though it'll be challenging and overwhelming and annoying at times, I'm going to try and push myself to the point of continuing it and pushing onwards, because to me, this character is interesting, this world is interesting, there's enough there to keep me hooked. So I want to know your thoughts, feelings and opinions down below. If you are a Lord of the Rings fan, hit subscribe. If you are going to pick up this game, hit subscribe. If you want to tell me your thoughts about this game, I'd love to read them down below. The comment section is always open. We have an open door policy here on the channel. Hit subscribe, comment down below. I'll read your comment. I'll like it, I'll heart it, I'll message you back. I always try and be really active in the comments, and always try and repost and comment on and reply to people's comments, because I know you guys take the time to, subscribe and comment, so I'll take the time, obviously, to go and reply and read them all. It's nice to gauge the audience and to see what you guys expect. I think if this comes to Xbox Game Pass, which we're still on the rocks about, I'm not going to say wholeheartedly. Someone correct me down below in the comments if it is coming to Game Pass, but I'm not going to say wholeheartedly it is, just in case it doesn't. But if it does come to Game Pass, then I'll give it some brownie points straight off the bat. I'm going to be far more lenient with games that come out to Game Pass because it's good valuables for the consumer. It's a good reward process for people who get Game Pass. These good games come out to it, so I'm more than happy to put my overall, my hat's wonky. I'm sorry. We're gonna keep all focus about this game as vague as possible because the trailer's there. We've seen the story aspect. I'm intrigued. I want to see more. I want to see a release date. I want to know if it's on Game Pass. But that's my opinion. I really look forward to this. Let me know what you think down below. I'm interested to hear what you've got to say. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in that next one. We're on the road to 6k subs. So if you can help us by dropping a sub, it would be greatly appreciated. And let me know everything that you feel down below. I want to hear that opinion. I want to see you guys going off at each other in the comments, telling each other what you think, telling me what you think, and I'll try and reply to as many as I can. But thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Subscribe for more, and peace.